Hey everyone! As you can see, today we're diving into Greek mythology. Ready? Let's go! Greek mythology is like that book everyone says you should read. But in reality, it's packed with drama, betrayals, and gods acting like they were reality show stars. But don't be fooled. Beneath all that chaos lies a fascinating narrative that explains the origin of the world, natural phenomena, and of course, why your mother-in-law is the way she is. It all started with chaos. Yeah, like your desk on a Monday morning. Gaia, Earth, basically the mother of everything that exists. And Uranus, the sky, who had a bigger ego problem than a social media influencer. Sounds complicated? It is. But don't worry. I'll break it down so you won't need a mythology dictionary. After that introduction, which probably left you with more questions than answers, let's get to the point. The origin of the universe according to the Greeks. Imagine an infinite, dark, and chaotic void. No, not your room after a party. We're talking about chaos, the primordial state from which everything emerged. Out of this cosmic mess came Gaia, the Earth, basically the mother of everything that exists. And no, we're not talking about an overprotective mom, but a powerful force that decided the universe needed a bit of order and drama, lots of drama. But Gaia wasn't alone. There was also Uranus, the sky, basically that toxic boyfriend who just won't leave. Together, Gaia and Uranus had a family of Titans, Cyclopes, and Hecatonchires. Yeah, complicated names for creatures that were basically walking disasters. But here comes the plot twist. Uranus wasn't exactly Father of the Year. In fact, he was so controlling that he ended up, well, let's just say permanently removed from his position as ruler of the universe. And with Uranus out of the picture, the Age of the Titans began. Led by Cronus, who, let's be honest, wasn't exactly an upgrade in leadership. Now that we know Gaia and Uranus were basically mythology's first dysfunctional couple, we arrive at the Age of the Titans. These guys weren't exactly the heroes of the story, but they weren't full-on villains either. They were more like those TV characters you can't decide whether to love or hate. Leading the group was Cronus, the god of time and, apparently, of extreme decision-making. Cronus didn't exactly have a happy childhood. His father, Uranus, was so obsessed with staying in control that he decided to lock up his children, the Cyclopes and the Hecatonchires, in Tartarus, which was basically the basement of the Underworld. Gaia, being the protective mother she was, wasn't thrilled about this. So she handed Cronus a sickle. Yes, a sickle, and said, "Son, it's time to do something about this." And oh boy did he. Not only did Cronus overthrow Uranus, but he also became the new ruler of the universe. The problem? He inherited his father's paranoia. Afraid that his own children would overthrow him, Cronus decided to eat them the moment they were born. Yep, you heard that right, he ate them. But, like in every good story, there was a twist. His wife, Rhea, managed to save one of their children, Zeus, by hiding him in a cave in Crete. And just like that, with a secret baby god growing up and hiding, the countdown began for the end of the Titans' reign and the rise of the Olympian gods. With Cronus in power, the universe seemed to have a new order. Or at least, that's what he thought. But, like in every dysfunctional family, the cycle of betrayals was far from over. Cronus, remembering what he did to his father Uranus, became obsessed with making sure his own kids wouldn't overthrow him. So, every time Rhea gave birth, Cronus would show up with a big smile and swallow the baby. Yep, literally. Not exactly the most recommended parenting method, but hey, that's just how things worked in the Titan world. However, Rhea wasn't about to lose all her children. When Zeus, the youngest, was born, she decided enough was enough, with the help of Gaia, because, let's be real, grandmothers always save the day. Rhea tricked Cronus by handing him a rock wrapped in baby blankets instead of the actual baby. Cronus, suspecting nothing, swallowed the rock, and Zeus was secretly hidden in a cave in Crete, growing up far from his father's reach. But Zeus wasn't the type of god to stay in hiding forever. Once he grew up, he decided it was time to end Cronus' reign. With the help of Medusa, the goddess of wisdom, he gave Cronus a special potion that made him throw up all of Zeus' siblings: Hades, Poseidon, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia. And just like that, with a team of gods ready for battle, the Titanomachy began. The epic war between the Titans and the Olympians. This war was not a pillow fight. It lasted 10 years and turned the universe upside down. The Titans, led by Cronus, fought with everything they had, but the Olympians, by Zeus, had something the Titans didn't: powerful allies. The Cyclopes, freed from Tartarus, gifted Zeus his famous lightning bolt, Poseidon his trident, and Hades a helmet of invisibility. Armed with these divine weapons and a solid strategy, the Olympians won the war, banishing the Titans to Tartarus and marking the beginning of a new era, the age of the Olympian gods. After their victory, the three main brothers, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, decided to divide up the universe. Zeus took the sky and became the king of the gods. Poseidon claimed the seas and oceans, and Hades ruled the underworld, the realm of the dead. Even though Hades got the worst deal, nobody wanted to live in the underworld. His role was crucial in maintaining balance in the universe. And so, each had their own domain. Though, as we'll see, that didn't stop them from constantly getting into trouble. With the Titans out of the picture, the universe finally had new rulers, the Olympian gods. Now, these weren't exactly peaceful neighbors. They were more like one big family with superpowers, massive egos, and a habit of causing chaos. But who were these gods, and what did they actually do? Let's meet the main players. First, we have Zeus, the leader of the pack. He's the god of the sky and thunder, and basically the boss of everything. But don't be fooled by his authoritative image. Zeus is best known for his, let's say, romantic adventures. If there's a Greek myth involving a complicated love story, chances are Zeus is at the center of it. Then there's Hera, the queen of the gods and Zeus's wife. She's the goddess of marriage and family, which is pretty ironic considering her husband couldn't stay faithful even with superpowers. Hera is famous for her temper and her creative ways of getting revenge on Zeus's lovers and their illegitimate children. Poseidon, the god of the sea, is another major figure. With his trident, he ruled the oceans and caused earthquakes when he was in a bad mood. Basically, he was the last person you'd want to upset if you had a boat trip planned. And let's not forget Hades, the god of the underworld. Even though he's often portrayed as a villain, he was really just doing his job, ruling over the dead. Sure, he wasn't the most cheerful host, but at least he kept things in order. Then we have Demeter, the goddess of agriculture, and the reason we have seasons. Athena, the goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare, no unnecessary violence. Apollo, the god of the sun, music, and medicine, a true multitasker. And Artemis, his twin sister, goddess of the hunt and the moon, who had zero tolerance for nonsense. But the list doesn't stop there. There's Ares, the god of war, the guy no one invited to parties because he always started fights. Hephaestus, the god of fire and the forge, the craftsman of the group, though not exactly the most popular at family gatherings. Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, who caused more romantic problems than she solved. Hermes, the messenger of the gods, the fastest and most mischievous Olympian, and Dionysus, the god of wine and partying. The life of the party, sometimes a little too much. And the family tree doesn't end there, because the Olympian family is big and complicated. Each god had their powers, their domains, and, of course, their personal dramas. But the important thing is that, together, they ruled the universe. Or at least tried to without destroying each other in the process. Now that we know the 12 Olympian gods, it's time to talk about their, let's call them, masterpieces. Because if there's one thing that defines Greek mythology, it's the endless drama, romance, betrayal, and, occasionally, giant monsters. Let's go over some of the most famous myths. Let's start with Prometheus, the titan who decided to give humanity a hand, literally. According to the myth, Prometheus not only created humans from clay, but also stole fire from the gods to give it to them. The result? Zeus punished him by chaining him to a rock where an eagle ate his liver every day. Yeah, Greek gods weren't exactly known for their leniency. Then there's Pandora, the first woman created by the gods as a gift to humanity. Along with her came a box that contained all the evils of the world. Was she told not to open it? Yes. Did she open it anyway? Of course. And just like that, the world was filled with disease, war, and reality TV shows. Thanks, Pandora. In the realm of love, we have the story of Eros, Cupid, and Psyche. Eros fell in love with Psyche, but forbade her from seeing him directly. What did Psyche do? She looked at him, obviously. After many trials and errors, including a trip to the underworld, they were finally reunited and lived happily ever after. Well, sort of. And we can't forget the Trojan War, which started because three goddesses, Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, fought over a golden apple that said, "For the most beautiful." Paris, a Trojan prince, chose Aphrodite, and in return, she helped him abduct Helen, the most beautiful woman in the world. The result? 10 years of war, a wooden horse, and one of the most famous stories in mythology. Finally, there's the myth of Medusa, a priestess of Athena who was turned into a monster with snakes for hair after Poseidon. Well, let's just say he didn't treat her well. Instead of punishing Poseidon, Athena transformed Medusa into a creature that turned anyone who looked at her into stone. Divine justice, right? These are just a few examples of Greek myths, but there are many more. Stories of heroes, monsters, vengeful gods, and, above all, lessons about what happens when you don't follow the gods' rules, or when the gods themselves decide that rules don't really apply to them. If the Greek gods were like the bosses of a toxic company, the heroes were the employees who had to follow their orders, even if that meant risking their lives. These heroes, half human and half divine, not only had to face giant monsters and deadly curses, but also the whims of the gods, who sometimes helped them, and sometimes crushed them without mercy. Let's meet some of the most famous ones. Let's start with Hercules, better known as Hercules in Roman mythology. Son of Zeus and immortal, Hercules is famous for his 12 labors, which included tasks like cleaning the Augean stables, yes, literally shoveling cow poop, and capturing Cerberus, the three-headed guard dog of the Underworld. But it wasn't all brute strength. Hercules also had to deal with Hera's wrath, which drove him mad and made him kill his own family. The result? A life full of regret and impossible challenges, all because the gods decided to use him as a pawn in their power games. Next, we have Theseus, the Athenian hero who faced the Minotaur in the labyrinth of Crete. With the help of Ariadne and her famous thread, Theseus managed to slay the beast and escape alive. But, like many Greek heroes, he had a dark side. After his victory, he abandoned Ariadne on an island and forgot to change the black sails of his ship to white ones. That little mistake led his father, King Aegeus, to believe he was dead and throw himself into the sea. Oops. And all because the gods decided his fate had to be tragic. Perseus is another classic hero. Son of Zeus and the mortal Danae, Perseus is best known for beheading Medusa using a reflective shield, since obviously he couldn't look at her directly. Afterward, he used Medusa's head to turn his enemies into stone, including a giant and a tyrant king. And, as if that wasn't enough, he also rescued Andromeda from a sea monster. Just another day's work for Perseus. Though it all started because the gods decided his life needed to be a non-stop roller coaster of danger. And we can't forget Odysseus, the star of the Odyssey. This hero wasn't known for his strength, but for his intelligence. From coming up with the Trojan horse, to tricking the Cyclops Polyphemus by telling him his name was Nobody, Odysseus proved that brains can be just as useful as brawn. That said, he was also a bit of a liar and an arrogant guy, which cost him a 10-year journey home. And all because Poseidon decided to make his life miserable for blinding his son, the Cyclops. Finally, there's Achilles, the nearly invincible warrior of the Trojan War. Son of a nymph and a mortal, Achilles was immune to all harm, except for his heel, where his mother held him when she dipped him into the river Styx. The result? A life of glory on the battlefield, but a premature death when a poisoned arrow struck him right in the heel. That's where the term Achilles' heel comes from. And all because the gods decided his destiny was to die young but be remembered forever. These heroes, with their great deeds and deep flaws, show us that Greek mythology wasn't just about gods and monsters. It was also about humanity, its triumphs, its failures, and its eternal struggle to survive in a world where the gods played with their lives like pieces on a chessboard. If you thought the world of the living was complicated, wait until you hear about the Underworld, Hades' realm. It wasn't exactly a vacation spot unless you enjoyed dark landscapes, rivers of fire, and wandering souls. But what made the Underworld so special? First, let's talk about Hades, the god of the Underworld. He's often portrayed as the villain, but in reality, he was just doing his job. Hades was serious, reserved, and above all fair. Of course, he also had his dramatic moments, like when he kidnapped Persephone to make her his wife. But that's another story. The Underworld was surrounded by several rivers, each with its own purpose. The Acheron was the river souls had to cross to enter the underworld, guided by the ferryman Charon. Then there was the Styx, the river of sacred oaths, where Achilles was dipped to become invincible. Let's not forget the Phlegethon, the river of fire, and the Cusitis, the river of wailing. Basically, the underworld was like a luxury resort, if your idea of luxury included eternal suffering. Not everything in the underworld was dark and miserable, though. The Elysian fields were a paradise for virtuous souls, a place of eternal peace and happiness. On the other hand, Tartarus was the ultimate punishment zone, reserved for sinners and enemies of the gods. Picture a deep, dark pit where the Titans and other rebels were doomed to suffer forever. Not exactly a top tourist destination. When souls arrived in the underworld, they were judged by 3 judges: Minos, Aeacus, and Rhadamanthus. They decided if a soul would go to the Elysian fields, Tartarus, or the Asphodel meadows, a kind of limbo where most souls ended up. Think of it as divine judgment, but with no lawyers or appeals. Beyond the infamous Cerberus, the underworld was filled with terrifying creatures. The Erinyes, or Furies, hunted down those guilty of terrible crimes, while the Shades were restless spirits wandering aimlessly. And, of course, there was Hecate, the goddess of magic and crossroads, who often appeared in the underworld to guide or confuse lost souls. The underworld wasn't just a place of punishment, it was a reflection of Greek beliefs about life, death, and justice. And while it wasn't exactly a popular tourist destination, it was definitely a place no one ever forgot, once they got there. And so, we've reached the end of this journey through Greek mythology. From the Titans to the heroes, gods, monsters, and the underworld, these stories show us how the Greeks explained the world and its mysteries. But beyond the drama and fantasy, Greek myths leave us lessons on power, justice, and the consequences of challenging the gods. What's fascinating is that these stories are still alive today. Phrases like Achilles' heel or Pandora's box are part of our language, proving that Greek mythology isn't just a thing of the past. It's a universe of stories that continues to inspire us. Which myth would you like us to dive deeper into? If you enjoyed this journey through Greek mythology, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. There's an entire universe of myths waiting to be explored, and your support helps us keep creating content. See you in the next video. Goodbye.